Leadership Chronicles, Decoding Business Challenges with Experts.
Welcome everyone to this exciting AMA session with one of the most distinguished General Counsel in the industry. We are thrilled to have Mr. Zameer Nathani here with us.
Mr. Nathani is presently the Group General Counsel of India's renowned unicorn, the Car Deco Group, which owns brands like Car Deco, Insurance Deco, College Deco, and others. He is widely recognized for his exceptional leadership skills, strategic thinking, and unwavering commitment to achieving positive outcomes for his clients.
Yeah, today's session is a unique opportunity to hear directly from on a range of topics related to AI, contract management tools, and their applications, use cases in the industry. So without further ado, let's start and welcome Zameer sir.
Thank you very much.
So the first question to begin with is, can you share about your background and what inspired you to become a general counsel?
I started my career early as an entrepreneur. I mean, in Mumbai, when internet was at its prime, when it was coming to India, we had a business of internet which was there in Mumbai.
Okay.
And we had good clientele services at that point of time. However, law was always attracting me. When I would read clauses in the agreement, legal license agreement and all that, that was attracting me, and therefore I completed my degree in 2002, and I immediately also did by 2004 LLM. I did LLM in international law because I was seeing companies like Google, Facebook and all growing, and I thought that this would then become a trend globally and they would be coming to India. With that, I started my career. My first job was with a law firm.
Okay.
Where my first client was Eureka Forbes AquaGuard, what we use today.
Yeah.
LG Electronics was one of our clients. I contributed to an extent for the Ginger Hotel. It's a joint venture between Eureka Forbes and Taj Hotels. Thomson was there. We had TCL India, etc. All these brands were there, which we were catering to. And there were multinational companies which had come to India. They had made investments in India. So I was looking at the legal affairs from a law firm perspective there. And then I was hired at that point by one of the CFOs who had joined Reliance. And I joined Reliance in that way for the group. And I was heading legal for the gaming company and gradually then for the e-commerce as well as the OTT platform. This is way back in 2006 onwards. Once this journey started with Reliance, it was one of the best journeys. I mean, I had all transactions not only in India but also internationally, globally, every corner of the world we would deal with as Reliance, especially United States and other countries.
Okay.
Post that, I was called upon by Balaji Telefilms, who head legal for Balaji Telefilms and Balaji Motion Pictures. I was reporting to the managing director, promoter of the company, Shobha Kapoor. We had controversies of movies like Dirty Picture,
Yes.
Shootout at Wadala came out at that point of time. Jodha Akbar controversy of the TV serial that happened, and I had to stay put in Jaipur for about 1 month and develop a great relationship because that was one of the first serials of the country which was having a running disclaimer that there can be two views about it, and that's how we actually developed relationship with the group which was actually protesting for that, and they also felt that that was a genuine effort which was initiated by a production house by running a running scroller for the first time in the history of the television series. Post that, I was heading legal for a company known as Raymond Limited. Raymond is into textile business. It was into apparels. It had retail stores. Park Avenue were the brands. It was into FMCG where we had deodorants, etc. Engineering. Then it was also into air travels where we would charter the aircraft wherever required. That company had a great experience at the tenure which was also somewhere we had big cases which do came up in that company, in the family. And then I joined one of the disruptors in the market known as UFO Movies. Movies was a company which actually replaced your physical reels of movies to digital projectors in the theaters. Which means today any movie releases any point of time, you can with the switch of a button release that across all the theaters in India instead of sending a physical reel everywhere. And technology improved, piracy control would happen, encrypted movies started coming in, etc. Well, that was the revolution. And post that, my journey in car deco started, where we are into new car, we are into financial services, we are into insurance deco, which is one of our brands. And this is the auto tech company and the fintech company of which I am today a part of as a Group General Counsel. That's my journey as a Group General Counsel till today.
That's great to hear, sir.
Thank you for sharing your inspiring journey. It's really fascinating to hear how your background shaped your path towards becoming a General Counsel. So, according to you, what are the most important skills required for a successful General Counsel?
As a General Counsel, you should always remember that somewhere, you are a decision maker in the process. You're supposed to advise, you're supposed to find a solution, you're supposed to also give a decision on how we should proceed and where you should proceed. So always as a General Counsel, the first thing you require is leadership. You have to take it from the front. Number two, strategize everything, because when you're interacting with the promoter or the company and where your decision is very important, you need to also evaluate all your options and strategize. And the third thing is to execute. So leadership, strategy and execution, I think are the most important part of a General Counsel.
So I'll ask you another question. What's the best book you have ever read, sir?
So for me, the best book up till today is Winning by Jack Welch. He was CEO of General Electric. There are certain leadership principles he had aligned, which really helped in life, because he gave us certain principles of leadership. What today make you successful is some of the components and of the book is so important, where you become a leader of a company and you are taking decisions. You are having a lot of challenges where you have to face, and how do you proceed with those challenges and then come out with a solution to them. So I think from a leadership standpoint, this is one book, Winning by Jack Welch, really made a difference to my life.
Great one.
Seems like an interesting book. I'll definitely give a read to it. So coming on to the next question, what was the most challenging legal issue you have ever faced and how did you handle it?
I think apart from my role as a General Counsel, I think there are some 4 or 5 controversial cases which have come, out of which I will choose one. I think the first initial phase as a lawyer in my life, when I was lawyer for Eureka Forbes and Kent RO had come out at that point of time. That was the first legal notice I had sent to the company, because it was making a comparison between Aquaguard and Kent RO, which comparison was seemingly not fair, and therefore we had instructions to issue a legal notice to the company. That was one first case which came up. The second case which came up was of Botox. When Botox came to India, one of the first cases, initial launch, there was a controversy in one of the clinics where a person applied Botox and there were some boils which developed on the face.
Oh.
So that was the second one. See, these are all medical technical issues, and therefore it has to be also dealt in that regard, not to blame only the product about it. I think in Reliance we had tremendous challenges, right from political feedback what we get during the activity point of time, challenges we face from a business decision point of view, where there are high stakes matters which are involved and you are supposed to make a decision either from a India jurisdiction point of view, or when you're talking about foreign jurisdictions, United States or even Mauritius, Cayman Island, from an investment perspective or a business decision when you're dealing with investment bankers like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs and all that,
Yeah.
there are certain critical decisions you have to take, certain undertakings, indemnity. Those are critical decisions which were there during Reliance. During days in Balaji, of course, we had Dirty Picture, which had its own controversies. We had Shootout at Vadala, Jodha Akbar was there. And during my time at Raymond, I think the most controversial case would have been the dispute on the Singhania family between father and son, which became headlines. I think that was the most challenging and controversial cases I have faced during my career.
Actually, it's remarkable, sir, how you tackled such complex legal issues and made out to
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
So, sir, can you tell us about a memorable case that you have ever worked on and what made it so memorable?
Two memorable cases I would cite. The first memorable case which I remember is the Jodha Akbar controversy of the TV serial,
Okay.
between Balaji and ZTV. And Karni Sena had protested against that because there were two views about Jodha Akbar. Alright. So we had a meeting with them. There were two historians, one historian from our side, one historian from our side. We had this discussion while there was a public interest litigation filed in Jaipur High Court as well as Jodhpur High Court, and those PILs were not completely heard. But I always as a part of our duty, I always kept a line of relationship and discussions open. And the memorable thing about that was that Ragini MMS 3 was getting released at that point of time. I was in continuous discussion with Karni Sena, Mr. Lokendra Singh Kalvi, he's the head of Karni Sena, very respectful person, and I really accolade my relationship with him. We expressed everything in good faith, saying that that there are two views, and unlike the standard process of putting a disclaimer either before or after the serial, I think what we are planning to do is to put a scrolling disclaimer till the serial runs for half an hour on the channel every day. A scrolling disclaimer will continue saying that there are two views about it. This is one view, there can be other view also. And I think he was able to grasp the genuinity about the discussions we had. And I think a lot of respect also came from him. We had lunch in his house. So, the controversy which started with something in the news suddenly came out as a relationship where, we also felt that it is our duty to convey to the people of the country that this is one view, there can be other view also. And on the part of Karni Sena also we saw, because they also made a very good point that today, films do have an impact on the people.
Yes.
What you see is what you believe. All right, Mughal-e-Azam was one of the examples cited there. So I think we could understand their view, and we also then acted upon it, and that actually ended up in building a better relationship with Karni Sena than what it was when it started about. So that was one of the most important cases. Without going to the courts, this was one of the great relationships we developed, and this was one of the important cases. The second case which I remember is the Singhania family dispute between son and father, and that was one of the cases which came up. We, as a lawyer, as a general counsel of the company, I took it up that matter on a corporate governance level. While the newspaper was reporting about son and father having a controversy, the real reason in this case was corporate governance. Certain documents were created and the property was sold for an X amount. And that was a challenge from a shareholder's perspective, when you put across for the shareholders meeting. So that was one of the things which never came into limelight because newspapers and news television channels were reporting on the controversy between the father and the son. However, this picture did not come. But the interesting part was there was some corporate governance issue which we had to tackle in the courts of law, and we were fighting this case on that particular merits. So these are the two historical remembrance cases in my life.
That was really interesting to know that how you tackled them all. So moving on, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
I think one of the historical persons with whom I will really like to have dinner with is of course Gandhi ji.
Okay.
Interesting.
One, because he was a barrister. Second, he worked towards the independence of our country. But most importantly, at our world today, we look out for leadership. Alright? So a person who is able to drive a country towards independence using non-violence and simultaneously also having discussions with the Britishers. See, he would also have his leadership strategy execution in place. He would have the discussion points to be made, etc. So I think Gandhiji would be the most ideal person to have dinner with if we go back to the history.
That's really exciting. That's really interesting. So, sir, next question would be: what do you enjoy most about your job as a general counsel?
I think the most important part of my job are the challenges and issues which I face, and I would like to thank Reliance and my other companies for this because these challenges and issues which come up are really our oxygen. So when we are there at the decision making table, you are always faced with a situation of taking a decision, and you are consciously aware that while you are taking these decisions, any decision can go south. All right, but you still take that decision because you're sitting on a chair with that experience where you have evaluated your options and you have tried to put your best foot forward. So I think challenges, issues, strategy, showing leadership, team building, trusting your team are all the things which really make me feel good as a general counsel. And I always believe that a leader has a team. There can't be a leader without a team, and therefore you have to give equal importance to your team members as you give it to yourself. That's my motto.
Yes. So absolutely, so teamwork and leadership qualities I would really remarkable. Like, as these are really necessary to have to take a team forward. So absolutely, that one. So for the next part, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received in your career?
I think the best piece of advice which I would have received in my career is always on the execution side of it. So I've been at Harvard Business School, and the dean of our program at Harvard Business School always expressed to us that leadership is also about execution. So when you're sitting on a high chair, your decision always makes a difference to your life. So if you're a CEO of a company and every decision you take, you have been observed for that particular decision, and that decision can also go wrong.
Yeah.
So I think two lessons what he taught to us. He said at a leadership level, however worried or afraid you are supposed to take a decision, because if you don't take a decision, you're not a good leader, and gradually people will start speaking about it. Number one. Number two, even at a high position, your decisions can go wrong. So you can either be successful in your decision, or you can have a learning in that. Don't say failure. You can either be successful or you can have a learning. So there is no failure about it. I think those are great words which I find.
Absolutely.
That's a great advice, sir.
Yeah.
And moving next, sir, what's the funniest or most interesting thing that you have ever happened in your legal career, sir?
The most funniest thing which happened in my legal career was two cases. One is of dirty picture. So though it was a legal controversy, and I came by the time the FIR was already filed, but one of the scooter drivers was driving in Hyderabad or somewhere, and there was a poster of dirty picture, and he met with an accident, and he filed a case saying that because of this poster I have fallen down, and my argument was on the other side that the person actually diverted his mind, and therefore it should be a cross case. But that was one of the things which initially came to it. It may be a serious point also. And I think the number two which happened, because I was in the entertainment world, the fun is there. I think when there was a controversy regarding a serial, I visited every theatre in Jaipur where police security was there. People are not aware that when Ragini MMS 3 came out in Jaipur, at every cinema theatre there were at least 4 policemen because there was a controversy which had happened, and we did not wanted police to be there in larger quantity, because normally people go to theatres for entertainment, so we don't want the families to get intimidated. So what we did is that in every theatre we kept 4 personnels, so that in case the controversy happens, they can immediately coordinate on the walkie-talkie and the police can come. But when we did that, I took a round of every theatre in Jaipur just to see if the situation is great, the police is available, etc. I think that was beyond the call of the duty, but I think that was one of the parts which I really remember, because that was during summers.
Okay. So it's really fascinating how even in the legal profession, unexpected moments can bring a sense of humor and excitement.
Okay.
So what is your favorite legal movie or TV show and why?
I think Suits is one of the best television shows. We all liked about it.
Yeah.
And the reason for liking are the different roles played by the actors who are really strategic, who are really sometimes aggressive, who really want to make a point in their case towards the direction. So I think those qualities do reflect that leadership is one of the inbuilt qualities of lawyers, and I think they have to always take it from at the front foot. That's what I like.
Yeah. So, sir, can you share the most unusual clause that have came across in any contracts?
I think I was negotiating in Reliance with a software company, a well-known software company, and we were buying product in a very huge quantity, and I saw an indemnity clause which actually says that if something happens, I am supposed to pay that particular company. And I went back to them and said, I am buying a product of a quantity which is unimaginable, because this is Reliance. If there is a product failure, I am supposed to claim money from you, and you are saying if the product fails or if this contract goes for a south, you will claim indemnity from me, is one of the very odd clauses which I found. In fact, the first discussions which happened on that particular part, they said, our products are very great, and therefore anything goes wrong, nothing can go wrong our part unless you do something, and therefore we have kept that. But that argument was not viable, and finally they changed that. So that's the little funny part about it on the clauses.
Quite amusing. So what do you find to be the most fulfilling and the challenging aspects of your job as a general counsel?
The fulfilling part of the job is that once a task is given to you, I think you figure out the strategy, you figure out the solutions, you present it to the promoters or you present it to the senior management, and go for an execution and complete that within a timeline. That's the focus about fulfilling job. That you get some task, you finish that, you give a timeline, and that is very appreciated at the leadership level. Number one. What's more challenging about it is that when there are complexities in the problem which you get, and when there are hidden information which you are not aware of. So if there is one case which comes up and you come out with a strategy, all right, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it comes out that there is a complex issue to it, there is third party involved, there is something on the paperwork which is missing out. That becomes little challenging and complex, or certain facts are not known to you or not known to anybody, and suddenly it comes out that this was actually signed by somebody. So that complexity brings the challenge to it, but challenges have their own merits, and therefore you work on them and solve it again.
Absolutely, and that comes with experience.
It's inspiring how to hear how you bring the sense of satisfaction, and I guess that's what pushes you to excel in your field. Right? So moving on to next question, sir. So how do you view India's current legal adoption pace of legal technologies?
I think India is adopting to legal technology, especially very much. While there's a discussion going on in AI in US from a court's perspective that people can use it for arguments and all that. I think in India we were pretty early adopters of the concept of AI. So this discussion is regarding using AI to identify clauses in the agreement. It started from there. So today we are living in the world of ChatGPT. But I feel India is an early adoption country, number one. Number two, India has always been pro to technology. Like we were talking about automizing the legal departments of Reliance Group in 2006 and 2008. Using technologies where the whole group can find out what is available in the database. Google search, what we call, would be available to find out in the whole group. So India is an early adopter to AI, and I feel it's time for all the legal teams of corporates in India as well as law firms to now start adopting AI technologies in their system, so that many administrative as well as intellectual work which can be assigned to technologies can be done by it, so that you can build upon it as a lawyer or a general counsel or a corporate counsel in the future. That's my
It's really interesting to know your insights, how technology is shaping the future of legal.
Correct.
So moving on, can you share some more insights on how contract lifecycle management solution can help companies reduce cost and efficiency? Yeah.
So, contract lifecycle management is so important that, when you see from a management perspective, it's not only the database, it's evaluation of the contracts, it's evaluation of the due diligence of the company. So today when you use contract lifecycle management softwares, you are able to figure out not only the number of contracts, what are the quantity and quality of contracts you have got in the system. Your due diligence ready company, number one. Number two is that there are certain trends which you are able to observe from the reports which you get from them. All right. Number three, there are many companies which are also using it to find out the root causes which are affecting the company by use of those technologies. So I think contract lifecycle management by itself, as a database, as a reporting, as a quantum and quality work orientation reporting mechanism, and your MIS system and root cause will make a huge difference to the life of the company. Company is able to evaluate the state of their legal affairs by use of that particular software, contract lifecycle management softwares. I think that will go a very, very long way, and I think every corporate, every law firm, every attorney should adopt that.
It's impressive how it can streamline the process and enhance the overall contract management with the use of CLM. So, sir, what's some of the future trends and developments in CLM that companies should be aware of?
I think three aspects. Number one is artificial intelligence, all right. Number two is machine learning, ML, which we are seeing. And number four is what can be autonomous, all right. Like you have autonomous driving today. So one is your autonomous operation of the legal department wherever you can. Second is the machine learning aspects which you can build in, all right. So when you sign up multiple contracts on the same subject, there's a machine learning which is happening at the background. And third is the artificial intelligence, which can actually work for you, where you can value add to it. One of the examples I can give, Narayan Murthy recently spoke about. So somebody said ChatGPT is coming. So he said there was also a concept known as program developer which came during 1976 or something. He said, what was the use of that? So according to me, automation, machine learning, artificial intelligence are really going to be the tech which will really help in the legal field and the legal sector. and they will help enhance the more intellect part of the human while they are working in the system. That's my take on it.
Absolutely. It's really interesting to know your insights for the contract lifecycle management and how technology is integrating into it. So what advice would you give to companies that are just starting to implement a CLM solution?
I think the first advice would be the earlier you're better. Number one. Number two, try to embed that in your system. All right, which means it's not about restricting only to legal. It's about encompassing it to the whole company. From a CEO of the company till the level it is permitted, the whole company should be encompassed in that. When you implement that as an embedded system in the company, it will really help figure out the company on their state of legal affairs, their state of compliance affairs, their state of ethics and governance, their state of investigations, corporate investigations which are happening, their state of government affairs, policy making, etc., where you require to have concentration from a leadership point of view, not only legally but also from a executive position point of view. So I think that is my take.
Interesting.
Focusing on what you have said and investing in comprehensive training and adoption strategies will certainly set them up for success. And moving on to next question, sir. How do you see AI and ML impacting the contract management process in the future? And what benefits can a business gain from using an AI-powered CLM solutions?
One of the big examples I can give you is where we see due diligence. All right. So in today's world, when you speak about due diligence, it's about corporate governance, legal audit, and compliance audit. All right. So these are three parts which have become very critical. Today, corporate governance is supposed to be a gold standard. All right. So if there is a make or break in the corporate governance, there is a question not only from the investors, there is overall questions from the government, the investigating agencies, and overall your public perception also falls down. All right. Now, what will AI, ML, and all do in this process? They will basically make a company due diligence by default. So if anything is done which is outside the scope of legal compliance, there will be a trigger which will come out because the AI system is completely used to anything which is going in the opposite direction. Your ML system, machine learning, will identify the clause saying that this clause is overriding then what is liable to be paid. Like I was giving an example of indemnity which is more than the value of the contract. All right. So I think these are some advantages which will help you to protect the best interest of the companies legally, compliance, and move towards the best corporate governance and best practices. This is what the role AI and ML will play in the process.
Beautifully explained, sir.
Yes, your perspective on the impact of AI and machine learning in contract management is really enlightening. So how can businesses use AI to extract insights and values from their contract data? What's your thought about it?
That's the most important part of using contract management tool as well as using AI and ML embedded into the same, so that you can extract the right information what you want. For example, if you want to know what are my termination clauses in all the agreements which I have signed. So for example, when we were in Reliance, we had 5,000 agreements. Now if there is an investment which is coming, if there is a due diligence which is happening, there are 3-4 line items which are very important. Number one, whether the contracts can be assigned or not assigned. Because if I can't assign, I have to terminate or I have to negotiate with the party. What is the termination notice period which has been given? What is the minimum guarantee which has been given? In certain contracts, when you enter into an agreement, you tell the party, all right, I will take minimum 10 crore products. Now, if I've entered into that agreement and if I breach that agreement, I will have to pay damages for that 10 crores. So there are certain extracts which AI and ML will help you to extract by using the contract management tools. And that is the most important part which will be helpful not only to the legal but also to the management to commercially evaluate what is my exposure legally and commercially. That's the important part it will be.
That's true, sir. Data-driven decisions with the power of AI would make a huge impact on the
Yes.
revenue. Yeah. So moving on to the next question, sir. What are the some ways companies can measure their success of CLM implementation and calculate ROI or track ROI?
I think what companies should do is that what kind of reports are being generated, what kind of due diligence assistance which the company gets, what kind of metrics they are able to measure in terms of legal audit and legal compliance, what kind of metrics they are able to build on the corporate legal and compliance policies and going for a corporate governance audit. These are all the metrics which will basically lead to the company being called a very legally and compliance due diligent company. And in today's world, the most important part of the company is to be legally and compliance point of view be very perfect, because that is what is expected by the investors and shareholders. Because if you are not able to assess that matrix, then investors or shareholders or public don't view that company as a value add company. So that's the critical part it will be played.
Definitely. So your suggestions definitely provide a practical framework for the evaluation. So we would like to end this AMS session with one last question. What advice would you give to the younger generation aspiring to become a general counsel?
So number one should be that you are a leader. You're supposed to take a decision.
Absolutely.
At all levels where you're there, you have to express your opinion. Whether you're working with Reliance, whether you're working with Ekta Kapoor, whether you're working with Raymond, Mr. Gautam Singhania, or you're working with any other promoters or senior management, express your view legally with a subject in mind or an object in mind that you're working towards a solution. Alright? Everybody is aware in the system about the problem. Everybody is conscious of the problem. That this particular controversy will lead to some of the goals which are not objectively required. When you discuss about a problem, you also try to find out if there are solutions which are available within the four corners of legal, within the four corners of compliance. Number two, be very positive in your approach. When you're talking to any person, be a positive person to approach. Howsoever you may be meeting a celebrity or a big CEO of the company, be a positive letter to listen as well as speak out on that. Number three, be completely focused on what you're doing. Alright? So the expectation from a lawyer when you're becoming a general counsel is your leadership skill sets are good, you are able to articulate your point, you are completely focused on your job, you have studied 360 degrees about what you're talking about, and you know the world which you're talking about. Number four, strategize everything. Before you go for any discussion, strategize your ideas, strategize your objectives, strategize your plan, strategize your meeting. And number five is execute. So what you plan, you also execute. You figure out the right solutions, you have a discussion with the management, and then finally you strategize and go and execute that particular objective. So that's what is expected as you grow. Build your leadership, be on front foot, be focused, strategize things, and execute, and keep growing.
Absolutely, so beautifully explained. We really appreciate the time and effort you have put it in this session, and sharing your expertise with us was a great pleasure having with you, and we look forward to meeting you soon again, sir.
Thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.